Talent may open the door, but what does it really take to stay? What happens when your voice begins to shape how people think, question, and see the world? Because the real question is no longer, how do you become an actor? It is, what does it mean to carry stories that can influence the society? Today, we sit with the responsibility of being the voice, the face, the man. Celebrated Ghanaian actor and stage performer Andrew Tandoh Adote. Andrew.
Yes, Vivie.
Well, you have been in the creative industry for close to 20 years.
Yes, I have.
Wow. Now, there are many people who love acting, but not everyone understands the demand that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, when did acting stop being something you enjoyed and start feeling like something you were responsible for?
I don't think acting ever stopped being something I enjoyed. I always enjoy it. I enjoy it to this day. But I think it became serious when it took a professional dimension. You know, when you're doing something you love as a group of people, you are, exploring, you are friends, you do your things here and there, and it's all has a certain playful atmosphere. But when money is involved and your director is pushing you to the limits, you begin to understand that, okay, it's not all fun and games, but you still enjoy it.
Well, was there a moment where it clicked for you that it's not, I think you expressed it one way or the other, but where you realized that it wasn't just expression, but this is also influence. First you spoke about, yes, the money part, there is a business aspect to it, apart from, you enjoying it. But then also, how about the expression and then the influence?
Well, the influence, I became aware of the influence side of it when, after some years, people began to walk up to me and say, I used to watch you when I was in school. And I'm like, hey, don't make me feel so old. What do you mean you used to watch me when you were back in school? But you become aware that the work you do leaves, for want of a better word, an imprint in people's lives, and people walk up to me and say, it's because they saw me performing on stage that they've chosen the path they've chosen, and they come to me and ask for guidance and the do's and don'ts of the trade and things like that. And you begin to realize, yeah, it's not really about you anymore. What you do, especially on the stage and on the screen, affects more lives than you will ever know.
Great, because that was the next question I was going to ask you, that do you think actors fully understand that, like the weight of what they put out there?
I think if they are in it if it's a calling for them, they'll become aware of it. Our profession is a very superficial one, and there are many who join it because they want the fame that comes with it, the fame and the notoriety that comes with it, because it opens certain doors for them or it affords them certain opportunities. But once you see it as a calling, you become very aware of the effect you have on people, because it's not just about you. When you are in it for the fame, it becomes a bit of a selfish venture, and you don't necessarily take into account the effect that you as a personality or as a brand have on people.
Now let's take that a bit further. So let's come down to some of the roles you've played. When you take on roles like Elishin Oba in Death of the King's Horseman, what were you carrying beyond the script?
It was very important that anybody who watched that play left feeling like they've been part of something magical. I think part of the magic of being an actor or a performer of any kind is the ability to make somebody forget they are watching a show. And once they forget they are watching a show, their subconscious is wide open to all kinds of influences. And I was keenly aware, because I've been doing this for such a long time, and the role was especially challenging because of the sheer volume of lines I had to deliver. I realized that I was walking a very thin line. Either I kept the attention of the audience from beginning to end, or I lose them. So it was a very let me put it this way. It was a burden I was glad to carry as a performer. A performer lives for moments like that where you get a role and it scares you, and you realize that this is a challenge I want to take on. And I was so glad when people walked up to me and said, "Charlie, how do you do all those lines and all that?" And I was so glad that people weren't bored just because of the sheer number of lines. I was able to carry people through from beginning to end.
Great. Still,
I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, so but we're good. But still on that, have you ever performed and then realized later that this role actually shifted how people think, not just for the artistic, side of it, but how they talk about cultural tradition? For Definitely King Saltman, we're talking about, wow, Andrew did that. Like, how did you learn those lines? But also for the shift in culture and tradition.
Yes, I think there are many roles like that I played. I was a part of a play by Uncle Eboa. It's called The Woman in the Bathroom. And in The Woman in the Bathroom, you saw we caught a glimpse of what it takes to install a king and what it means to be a custodian of not just your land, but the culture and the history that comes with it. And it was a magical play. It was a spiritual play. And those who were so inclined, I believe, were very, very, I think their eyes were opened to certain things. I would, however, like to note an observation that those of us who perform such plays, we have a very uphill task ahead of us, because sometimes when you are born into a certain culture, you tend to take it for granted. And that has been a bit of the reception. It is the foreigners who come and enter the space, who watch things like that. They're like, wow, this is amazing. Look at all the color, look at the music, look at the dance, and look at this, and look at this, and look at that. But unfortunately, I don't know what because I don't think it's something that all cultures, African cultures, do. But I don't know whether it's colonialism or just apathy or something. But those of us here tend to take what we've been doing for years for granted, and it's unfortunate, and it shows in the language we raise our children with, etc., etc. And each generation becomes less and less aware of the culture and history that made them possible. So, yeah, I mean, we have performed plays that I'm sure has shifted the perception of one or two Ghanaians or Africans, but I don't think we have enough of those people that we have that effect on.
Wow.
Yeah.
This keeps coming back, over and over again, and how we are becoming so distant from our culture and all that. Now, do you really believe that art influences society? Because we tend to look at art, and we always say that, yes, art is supposed to, again, tell our stories and all that and make impact, again, which is what Artfluence is about. But do you really believe that art influences society, or do we sometimes overestimate what arts can do?
Oh, no. I believe arts seriously influences society. Arts is one of the vehicles of culture. I mean, let's just not go too far. Let's take dance. When you take Adoa dance, a dance lecturer can give you a whole lecture on Adoa itself and how it came to be, and the drums that go with it, and the language of the drums that informs the dance. It's the same with kete, it's the same with all these traditional dances and the movements and the meaning of the movements. All these things tell a story that links the present generation to the former generation. And I wish so much that as children, we would learn these dances and we would gain a special appreciation from the basic schools to the international schools or whatever. I wish we would learn some of these things so we gain a unique understanding of our culture. Now, especially in our part of the world or in our country, art can only influence society if it is backed by the powers that be. I think individuals can only do so much. Now, in my research, I learned something about the United States. The Pentagon has a department that has a budget for Hollywood. So if the government wants to push something, they put money into a movie. The Pentagon sponsored Transformers. Why did they do that? They wanted young men to look at the soldiers and go, wow, I want to be a soldier and join the military. If you go way back to the Tom Cruise movie, Top Gun, when Top Gun came out, it was about Navy fighter pilots. And the movie did so well that the enrollment in the military went up by, I think, 200% or so. It went so well that outside the cinema, there was a army recruitment personnel standing outside the cinema. And boys would leave the cinema and go and enlist in the army straight because that movie got them so hyped. And any boy that watched it just wanted to be Tom Cruise, wanted to fight in a fighter jet. So there's something other cultures seem to understand about art that we take for granted in Ghana. So that is why, unfortunately, we have all these TV shows and all these telenovelas that come out that those who do that think, oh yeah, it's business and we are making money, but at what expense? And I think it's at an expense that we are yet to fully feel the weight of as a culture and as a people. So the short answer to your question is yes, art does influence society very much. And unfortunately, I don't think we take the influence that our arts have on our culture as a whole. We don't take it as seriously as we should.
Wow. Now, we're going to talk about something people don't see now, because based on what you just shared, it comes also down to that reality. People want to show what the audience want to see, what sells. And so that's why we see all these telenovelas and things like that, because yes, we crave for things like that.
Yeah.
You will get people sponsoring stuff like that. However, I'm going to now zoom it down to have you ever had to choose between a role that matters and a role that pays?
Have I ever had to choose between a role that matters and a role that pays? No, I don't think so. I think I've been fortunate to be very comfortable with all the roles I have played. And I hope when I'm presented with the choice, I mean, you never know until you are in the situation and they're offering you some millions and then you really have to sit down and think and all. But I hope I never encounter that situation. I hope every role that I get, I am very, very comfortable with, and it also pays. Yeah.
Right. Now, all of those conversations about you, we're going to zoom out also a bit, because you are part of an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so do you think Ghana is building actors, or are we mostly celebrating them after they've struggled?
I think we are celebrating them after they've struggled. We celebrate, it's something that is unfortunately, very well known in the circles I've worked in. Almost everybody says in this country, no matter who you are, they don't take you seriously until another culture takes you seriously. and they'll tell you, Andrew, just go and do something in Europe or in Nigeria or in South Africa. Just do something crazy and come back to Ghana, and you will see how your stock will rise in your own country. I have a friend who is a photographer, and he traveled abroad, and he just took random photos of white people. And he recorded himself taking these photos of these white people. And then when he came back, people were looking at him like, hey, right now you are a big timer. And it was like, and he said it amused him because it was him just calling, oh, can I have a picture? Can I take a picture of you? But the fact that he was taking pictures of white people in Europe made people see him as, oh, right now this guy is on another level. So we need to be careful when we approach him. We need to prepare ourselves well before we approach him. And I've also had these comments where I'm always told that, Andrew, you are an amazing actor. What are you doing in Ghana? And I analyze that statement very well. This is something almost everybody I encounter tells me. Everybody knows instinctively that this kind of talent and this kind of skill, this country is not worthy of this level of skill because they know it will not be appreciated. It will not be given the recognition it deserves. So almost everybody who sees my work or encounters me goes, Andrew, what are you doing in Ghana? And I find it to be a very sad statement. And it's sad because it's true. That's why people say it. That's why people say it so much. I wouldn't have so many people telling me this over the years if there wasn't some truth to it. The moment they see my performance, the moment they see how I handle the jobs I get, they go, oh, this guy, Andrew. But don't worry, Hollywood will come for you. That's the second thing they say. Charlie, we are waiting for Hollywood because they know Ghana won't do much more for you. So to answer your question, we don't build actors. We wait for them to blow somewhere else, and then we look at them and say, oh wow. I mean I told you about the bloggers who ignore me and things like that. I'll share one of the stories. I think it was at the Emmy Awards, and then one of the bloggers came to me, Andrew, you are amazing, Charlie. And I was Actor of the Year nominee. So I was not just there to walk around. This is Actor of the Year nominee. So they walk up to me, Andrew, you are amazing. This is it. So you are here, you are Actor of the Year. And I spoke all my expensive English, thinking that, okay, this was good. And only for me to watch the page and see that my interview I was one of the first people there. So my interview was cut off and they went to the more famous actor. I think Bucci Franklin was in town. So they showed the interview with Bucci and all that. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Then it happened again when I was contracted to do a recital at a fashion event. So I was given something to memorize and deliver on the stage, a story of how Kente came into being and blah, blah, blah. And I did it so well. I got my applause. I went off. Then I started watching to see. And the bloggers who recorded the event only showed videos of the models coming on stage after I had left, right after I had left the stage. So you could literally hear the applause for me as I was leaving, and then the models came, and then the music went on and all that. And it told me something. Like you said, I've almost 20 years in the business for both stage and screen. So if you ask me, after what I have experienced, that do we build actors? No, we don't necessarily build actors. No.
So how can we change this for the next generation?
I think I think it's going to have to be approached from the top down and from the bottom up, because if as a nation or as a government we are not seen to be, because somebody will argue that we take the arts seriously, but if we are not seen to be taking the arts seriously and prioritizing the talents that we have and putting special effort into growing these talents and making these talents household names, nobody else will. You understand? So from the top down and then from the bottom up, if let's say, I mean, I know you are a blogger, you're doing business and you deal with what sells, but once in a while, take a look at people you see doing well, who are in front of you. So what wasn't? They are really doing their best under the circumstances, and give them a little shine. I'm not speaking for myself. I see many other great actors. Let me give a shout out to Solomon Fixinowu. Solomon is one of the most brilliant actors in Ghana, but I don't see. He should be on the level of Adote and Dems by now, but it's like you don't see such time. And let Solomon go and do some Hollywood project and come, and then his name will be all over the place, you know. So, I think there's more work to be done, and it should be from the top down and the bottom up.
Okay. Now we're going to wrap up this conversation, but
so soon?
I'm going to roll two questions in one just to end this. Who are you when the performance ends? That's one. And what do you want your work to change? Not just achieve, but what do you want your work to change? So,
who am I when the stage lights out? What was it like?
Yeah, when the performance ends, the audience leave. Lights, the curtains come down. Who is Andrew Adote?
Well, I'm a tired man. I'm a tired, quiet man who reflects on the work he has done. I'm a man who hopes to do better. I am a man who is grateful. Yes. What do I hope my work will change? I hope my work, first and foremost, serves as inspiration. I hope my work has an effect on anybody coming up, the same way the works of Anthony Hopkins and Christian Bale and these Charlton Heston. Yeah, I was looking for him. Charlton Heston was one of the first actors. I know most of you won't know his name. Go and Google Charlton Heston. Charlton Heston. This thick, tall white man who had this booming voice, and he performed on screen like he was performing on stage, and it worked. You know, and Anthony Hopkins, who made me think, this acting thing, I can do it. There was a role he played in, is it Amistad? And after he did that monologue, I got goose pimples. And those things set me on this path. And I hope that anybody who has seen my performance, either on stage or on screen, will have that effect. It will have that effect on them, and it will set them on a path to pursue their passion, if it is in the arts.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.